Hi again, everybody. It's Kevin Canessa coming to you from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the first day of November in the year 2021. Sure hope you're enjoying your Monday, no matter where it is you are in the country. And no matter where it is you are in the country, if you can believe it's November 1st, I just can't, because it's the 1st of November. It was just March 15th, 2020. A couple of days ago, and now here we are. It is the first day of November in the year 2021. How fast time goes. Does it for you? Because I feel like as I get older, it just gets quicker and quicker. Every single day is a blur, and week and month and now years. So it stinks getting old, but wow, time is going fast. But as you do, every single Monday, you welcome me into your home so that I might bring you this week's news. And as you can see, from the left side of your screen, Biden and Kearney, self-explanatory. Do I have to say anything more? You all know it by now, I'm sure, but the President of the United States of America, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., was in Kearney last week, and he spoke about the Portal Bridge. Kind of interesting to hear the President of the United States speaking about something so localized as the Portal Bridge, but indeed, he's trying to get Congress to move on the bill, and one of the big portions of the bill, the infrastructure bill, is indeed the Portal Bridge. And if you're a commuter and you go into the city or Hoboken and take the trains on a regular, even semi-regular basis, you know how important it is to get that Portal Bridge fixed. A very interesting statistic. It opens 100 times a year, according to President Biden, and 15% of the time, which would be 15 times, there's a problem with it. So they need to get that thing replaced. It's over 100 years old. It was state-of-the-art when it was new. It is not anymore. So check out our recap of the president's visit to Kearney. I personally got to see Air Force One coming in. I don't know if you did. It was flying over the Schuyler Avenue Meadowlands corridor, and it wasn't the normal 747 that he flies on, but he was coming in from Delaware, so he had one of the smaller ones. I think it's a Boeing 750 or 767, but still, to see that thing that says United States of America flying over what optically illusioned to look like Schuyler Avenue was pretty darn cool. So check it out on page number 1, no matter what you think of the president. On the bottom of page number 1, Cardinals rule Hudson Soccer. That, of course, is because the boys and girls soccer teams both won county championships last week in matches at Red Bull Arena. The girls won by a score of 4-0 or 4-0 in soccer terminology against North Bergen High School, and the boys beat Harrison 2-1 in overtime. I haven't seen the goal. I hope somebody's got it somewhere, but I heard it was an incredible goal in overtime. And sudden death is just as exciting as it gets in sports, as far as I'm concerned. And it's a shame in these cases that one team had to lose, especially here in this area where soccer is so paramount. And when you have two wonderful teams coached by two great human beings, it's even more difficult to have to see that the kids who lose have to go through what they go through. So, again, a shame that there had to be a loser, but the winner, of course, was Kearney 2-1 in the county championship at Red Bull Arena. Jim Haig had the crowd at 4,300, which is just astronomical for a soccer match in the high school level, but it just shows you how much soccer means to the people of West Hudson. So congratulations to the boy Cardinals and to the Blue Tide as well for an excellent, excellent season, falling just short in sudden death overtime. As we move along on this week's edition of The Observer, page number 2 is a small photo collage from Paul Rage 2021. Yours truly was fortunate enough to be a judge. John Pineda, thank you. Linda Deisa, thank you for inviting me to do that for the second time. Always a fun day. Got a chance to spend some time with Councilwoman Mary Trine DeCastro, who is a hoot and a holler. If you don't know her, she is hilarious. We had some great laughs during the course of the day, and the other judge that was with us was Anthony DeLuca from Kearney Bank, another very, very great human being. So I had a real fun time. So we have some photos from the parade. It came back after a year's hiatus last year. They couldn't put it on because of the COVID restrictions that were all over the place. So it was great to have this event. And John Elliott from WCBS News, Channel 2, the weatherman, was on hand. And I think his presence certainly helped to make the crowd as good as it was. Wasn't the best, wasn't the worst day weather-wise, but it all held up, and everything went off without a glitch, it appears, and everybody had a great time. Kids, the dogs, the folks who were there. There was even a skunk there. Somebody has a pet skunk. I don't ask questions about stuff like that, so I can't imagine anybody keeping a skunk for a pet, but hey, everybody's got their own preferences and likes, so maybe it's you. Enjoy. Coming up soon, there are auditions for the West Hudson Arts and Theater Company's production of Yes, Virginia. There is a Santa Claus, and those auditions will take place at the East Newark Senior Center, which is where most of the plays will be put on this year. Mayor Dina Grillo had offered the senior center to Jerry Facito and Watt, and that's great because it's the West Hudson Arts and Theater Company, not the Kearney Arts and Theater Company. So it's good to see that they'll be branching out and be doing a lot of things this year in East Newark. So if you are an actor between the ages of young and 80 or older, they want you there. So you try out. We have the dates. You'll check it out on page number 4. Also on that page, the Attorney General's office is investigating a shooting that took place in Lyndhurst a week and a half ago involving a civilian who wound up killing himself, but a police officer who was on the scene actually pulled his trigger and fired his service weapon, I believe, a few times. From what I understand, it was a very good, clean shot. And unfortunately, the man succumbed to his injuries. But whenever a police officer's gun goes off, the Attorney General's office, by law, or mandate, or maybe it's not the law, but it's just the way it is, the Attorney General's office investigates to make sure that everything was done cleanly. But from what I understand, this was a situation where the guy really just kind of wanted to die. And unfortunately, it happened with people watching. And that's a sad thing, and a police officer involved. We do understand the police officer is doing well because, a lot of times we forget that when a police officer is involved in a shooting, even though his bullet wasn't responsible or her bullet wasn't responsible for taking a person's life, it's got to be psychologically demanding. So we forget sometimes that these are human beings, even though they're trained for it. So fortunately, from what I understand, the officer involved with this shooting is holding up well, and that is all we could ask for. Moving on to page number 5, I read about this study about telecommuters and how the chances are if you are a telecommuter, you are under some kind of stress. And I spoke with a lot of people from the local area who are telecommuters, and it pretty much backs up the study that if you're working from home, and the contact that you have with human beings is limited, and let's face it, that's the way it is, that you're probably going to be under some sort of stress. And I even wrote about my 7 days in Secaucus when I was working there and working from home, and about how taxing it really was. It was only 7 days, but it was some of the most trying times of my career. I would start the day at 9:30, wouldn't be able to get out of the house until 7. And when you don't interact with people for that long a period of time, it really does a number on you mentally. It really does. So a very fascinating study, and if you're a telecommuter, I think you should certainly look at it. There was a person who I interviewed who actually said, I would rather be unemployed than work from home ever again. And that's a stark statement for anybody to make. That's how much of a taxing situation it was in this particular person's case. And I think I was getting that way too. It's just too much when you don't have human contact. We are social beings. So read the study. We localized it as best as we could, and I think you'll enjoy what you read, especially if you are a telecommuter yourself. This week's editorial touches on what happened with the Chicago Blackhawks. And I don't know how many of you have seen what happened, but this incident goes back to 2010. And whether or not you're a hockey fan, this is of importance. The Chicago Blackhawks were playing the Philadelphia Flyers in the Stanley Cup final that year, and the Blackhawks wound up winning the cup in 6 games. And there is a player who was on the taxi squad called Kyle Beach, who just before the finals told somebody in the organization that one of the video coaches, who was 27 at the time, sexually assaulted him. And starting with Stan Bowman, the general manager, to Joel Quenneville, who was the coach at the time, to everybody in between, the response to Kyle Beach was, sorry, we're in the middle of a Stanley Cup final. We haven't won it in 49 years. We've got more important things to do. Well, let's come back now to haunt them, because Kyle Beach came clean as to who he was, and the Chicago Blackhawks fired Stan Bowman. Well, he didn't fire him, he resigned, and Joel Quenneville resigned as the head coach of the Florida Panther hockey team down in Sunrise, Florida. But it opens up a greater debate about sex abuse, domestic violence, and things of that nature. This is an example of domestic violence. The player said that the coach, who was 7 years older than him, the player, Kyle Beach, was 20 at the time, told him that if he didn't have sex with him, he would basically end his hockey career, and he would never play a game again for the Chicago Blackhawks or for any other team for that matter. And he said he would break his legs, literally. So could you imagine that? If you're a 20-year-old kid, you've never left home before, you're a Canadian boy, and you want to learn to play in the NHL or get good enough to play in the NHL, and there's a coach who holds over sexual abuse your head that way. And the reason I decided to editorialize this week is because I was having a conversation with Lisa, and we looked at each other and said, if this can happen in the most elite hockey league in the world, what's to say it hasn't happened with high school kids, with middle school kids, and what's to say that there aren't children or teenagers who are petrified to come forward because they've been sexually abused by a coach? Think about this. These are the best hockey players in the world, and this was somehow able to happen and to go on for a considerable amount of time without any intervention from anybody for a decade and longer. It's disgusting what happened here to Kyle Beach. And it's horrendous to think that nobody stood up for him, that his own players turned their back on him, and that the coach said that we are in the middle of a run to the Stanley Cup. Nothing other than hockey matters more. But that's exactly what happened in this case. And when we had that discussion about the possibility of maybe there being a kid out there, and it doesn't have to be a boy, okay? There's a misconception that it's men who abuse boys all the time with sex abuse cases, especially if there's pedophilia involved. That's not the case at all, necessarily. There are female victims. There are female perpetrators as well. And the bottom line to all this is, if you are a teenager and you happen to be watching this right now, and God forbid a coach has ever touched you inappropriately or done something to you that is wrong, or even said something to you that is inappropriate, that is sexual in nature, it's okay to speak up, because there are people out there who are unlike the Chicago Blackhawks and Gary Bettman and the National Hockey League, who are ready to help. Give it some thought. If, God forbid, you're one of those kids and you're watching right now, reach out to somebody, because help is available. Going to move on to this week's police blotter. Two important things happened this week. One, a Mercedes-Benz was stolen off of Kearney Avenue because the owner of the vehicle left it running. Police department have a warning to any of you who are out there and own a car. Lock your doors. Don't leave the cars running. You would think this would be like elementary. With all due respect to the person whose car was stolen, I know who he is, and I don't want to embarrass him or her. So But come on, you can't leave your cars running anymore, folks. It's just like saying, "Take me," and clearly people are willing to do that. Another blotter situation: Danny McCune twice. I just can't even imagine what's going on. Danny is in the blotter so often, and he goes to the county jail, whether he's on a warrant or the crime. His rap sheet, though not a dangerous criminal, is in incredible length, and it just never seems to get better for many of you know Danny. And I just hope and pray that someday, somehow, he finds a way, somebody, to convince him to get help. He needs it desperately, and I know people have tried for years to get Danny help, and sometimes he doesn't want it. But it kills me when I see Danny McCune's name in the police blotter, and it's always tinkering with car doors, trying to get in to see what's there, and he wound up with a big stash, a couple $100, and sometimes he gets equipment, and it's a repetitive cycle, but just a shame. But yeah, Danny's in it twice this week, so check out the blotter this week. Fish House Road, the exit from just before the Whitpen Bridge is now open. Traveling eastbound, so you know that. The bridge was closed all weekend, but I think it's open now. Jim Haig has a recap of the girls' soccer championship that he aforementioned, a little bit about the football playoffs, and an athlete of the week from from North Arlington High School. So I hope you check that out. And let me see, I just got a few other things, but let me just scroll down here and make sure there's nothing I haven't mentioned to you. Oh, last week, ground was broken at Riverside County Park in North Arlington. James Tedesco, the Bergen County executive, was on hand, as was Steve Tonelli, the commissioner of Bergen County, who was a resident of North Arlington, former North Arlington councilman, and also on hand, Mayor Daniel Pronti as was Mayor Robert Gingerusso of Lyndhurst. They're building an amphitheater and also a comfort station, which is a snooty word for bathroom, and they broke ground last week. It was a nice, windy, cool day, so congratulations to everybody involved with that project. I know Steve Tonelli's been working on it for quite some time, and I also know that Mayor Pronti and Mayor Gingerusso are both very pleased that this is happening, because when they have the concerts now in North Arlington, especially, they won't have to get one of those portable stages. It's going to be set up right there. 2 pages of classifieds, as always this week. So if you have an apartment, if you need an apartment, or if you're looking for a job, things of that nature, check it out in the back of the book this week, this week's edition of The Observer and the classified section. That's it. Went a little longer today. I apologize for that. A little bit past 17 minutes past the hour, closer to 18 minutes past the hour right now. And we will wrap things up here. Of course, if anything happens during the course of the week, we'll join you with it live. But until then, look for us 1 week from today. And don't forget, you can watch this not just on Facebook, but on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube as well. Just type in that social media name .theobserver.com and you'll get there. And if you really want to see this mug in high definition, check out the Twitch broadcast. The quality is phenomenal. You can't beat it. From the newsroom of theobserver.com, Kevin Canessa signing off for now. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we'll see you back here again very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Bye, everybody.